Crisis Radio. Let me direct you, of course, to Tarpley.net. Tarpley.net is where you got to check in several times a week now. Things going up every couple of days. 2 to 3 commentaries this week. My appearances on Russia Today, but also articles, a detailed article on this Yoda business, right? The strategic deception coming out of the Office of Net Assessment in the Pentagon. And this guy is still there, 89 years old. He's been the founder of this Office of Net Assessment, been there since 1973, founded it, still runs it, and so forth. So take a look at Tarpley.net. The issue, though, treated in one of these commentaries, which is now going up at Tarpley.net, is the confrontation with China. So Mrs. Clinton says to the Chinese the following. This is a direct quote. She says, quote, China will be under a lot of pressure to recognize the destabilizing impact that a nuclear-armed Iran would have in the Gulf, from which they receive a significant percentage of their own supplies, i.e. of oil. We understand that right now it seems counterproductive to you to sanction a country from which you get so much of the natural resources that your growing economy needs, but you need to think about the longer-term implications. And then she goes on to say, if the Iranians get a nuclear bomb, this will convince Israel that it faces an existential threat. All of that is incredibly dangerous. Mrs. Clinton, in December 2007, the U.S. official national intelligence estimate concluded that there was no Iranian nuclear program to make bombs. Mrs. Clinton, what have you done with the NIE of December 2007, which was a key step in driving out the neocons, depriving them of the ability to start a war during 2008. Now this has been forgotten, but it's in a much broader context that it's been brought up again. The message of Mrs. Clinton, wearing her new Dior perfume, Chantage, is to say to China, we demand that you cut your throat directly by alienating Iran, so you will lose 10 or 12% of your oil. 70 or 80 billion of development contracts, several hundred billion of future oil purchase contracts, your only hope for having this guaranteed safe, secure overland pipeline, again, from the Iranian oil fields up through Pakistan, energy corridor, Pipelineistan, into China, through the Himalayas, above Kashmir, way beyond the reach of the U.S. fleet in the usual sense. So that's what they're demanding. Now, suppose if you don't do it, she's saying, if you do accept this as China, then it's clear what you're giving up. You're cutting your throat in all of these ways. You're giving up a great deal. But, she says, why would you do it? Because we're threatening you with something worse, and that is, if you don't support our economic sanctions against Iran, then we will no longer restrain the Israelis, right? We know the word to Israel all during 2009 coming from the U.S. has been no, 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 no. Don't you dare even consider this. But now that could be changing. Obviously, as long as you've got this green revolution, if you've got a CIA faction in Iran around Mousavi and these people who might take power, there's a great reluctance to do anything to put them in grave danger, because if there is an attack, these people are going to be exterminated. That much is certain. But beyond that, the idea is to say to Iran, if you don't support our economic sanctions, crippling economic sanctions, then we will unleash the Israelis against you, or we'll, again, manufacture a Gulf of Tonkin incident or some other false flag incident, and we will then use that as the basis for having somebody attack Iran. If Iran is attacked, we're told that the Iranians have literally tens of thousands of missiles of all sizes, shapes, and vintages, all festooning their coast along the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, Arabian Gulf, depending on how you want to look at it, especially the area of Hormuz, especially the narrow sea there. There's some little islands, right, that apparently have got quite a few rockets on them, too. There are some patrol boats. There are some submarines. There's all kinds of stuff. And all of this could be thrown in so that the Strait of Hormuz would possibly be physically closed, maybe by sinking some big ship right in the middle of it, because it's a narrow channel, and or simply by increasing the dangers to the point where the insurance premiums on the maritime insurance for tankers going through the Gulf would become so high that the economic viability of this traffic would be then called into question. So at that point, if Hormuz were closed, the Chinese would lose 30 to 35%, say about a third of their oil if Hormuz is closed by some kind of military action. Now, the Chinese seem to get about 20% of their oil from Saudi Arabia. There's some capability, there's a kind of a lateral pipeline that goes across the desert from the oil area to the Red Sea. There's a tanker terminal over on the Red Sea, but its capacity is much less than the facilities that the Saudis have in their tanker terminals there in the Gulf. And, of course, there'd be big international competition to see who would get that oil. The price, of course, would go sky high, $500 to $1,000 a barrel minimum. So the Chinese would be deprived of a quarter to a third of their oil in that eventuality. There's also the fact that the U.S. has shown such tender attention for Somalia and Yemen because these are the two points which guard the exit from the Red Sea, meaning all the traffic up there to Port Sudan. Port Sudan is another 6 to 7% of the Chinese oil. So Sudanese oil is big, Saudi Arabian, and all of this could be cut off because if the Saudis were involved in some kind of conflagration with Iran, then that might spill over then into the Red Sea on the other side, right, through terrorists or the Houthi rebels or whoever it is. So this essentially is the chantage. This is the blackmail of Mrs. Clinton to China. And there is a general sense in the Anglo-American ruling elite that they have the Chinese in an impossible bind. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So it's a great gambit, they think. As long as we can make this Iranian crisis heat up, the Chinese are going to be hurt. If they turn against Iran, they're going to be hurt immediately. And if they don't, and then something happens in the Gulf, so to speak, then the Chinese may be hurt even more. Now, so of course, this is harebrained scheming, right? This is utopian lunacy. This is the product of these scenario writers, a lot of them grouped around the Office of Net Assessment in the Pentagon. There are various ways to get out of this. So let me just add, this has been the nature of the Iranian gambit ever since it started. You can go back to 1978, and you can read columns by Paul-Marie Delagorce in the Figaro in Paris, where he says the U.S. conflict with Iran is mainly a threat to Europe and Japan, not even so much to Iran. Back in a minute.